All right, fellas,
That's
here
a
we are
win.
again.
That's a win.
Celtics, Timberwolves, Jimmy, Bobby, Josue. What's up, fellas? Celtics take this one. Made it a little bit more interesting than maybe we all wanted it to be. 104 to 102 in Minnesota to get off the little bit of a
No John
losing
tonight. John would have
losing.
came if
Yeah,
they
who's
lost.
John? Are you kidding me? He would have been the first guy here tonight if they lost this game, but he instead wished us well after. I think what a lot of people would think was, again, not the sharpest performance from start to finish by these guys. I think we're going to pick out some obvious, some positives, some negatives, as we like to do. But at the end of the day, they did get the win there, so you got to give them credit for that. I'll throw it to you guys first. Just give me, I guess, maybe your main takeaways from this one as we get into it here.
Go ahead, Josue.
No, I was gonna leave with Jalen. I think he deserves that much, right? I just feel like in this game he was effective and he was also attacking the rim, and I love when he's that aggressive, especially late in the second half when Anthony Edwards was really heating up, and you're starting to think, here we go again. This thing is way too close for comfort. But look, the guys that we've been hardest on, and I say we collectively as media members, is obviously the two guys we've been talking about a lot the last couple of weeks, which is Grant Williams and Marcus Smart. And those are the two guys who made the big plays, and late in the fourth quarter. So I just think that stuff is huge, especially for someone like Grant Williams who, got meaningful minutes all throughout, and especially, at the end of the game, Missoula turned to him because they needed those rebounds. They needed those, extra possessions. And obviously that took trust. He trusted to put Grant in that situation in that moment, and he didn't disappoint. He didn't disappoint. I mean, look, he got the big rebound. He got tied up, and then he made the big play off the off the jump ball. They got the ball to Tatum. Another possession. Tatum goes to the free throw line. It's a 2-possession game with 1.7 seconds left. I mean, like, that's the kind of stuff that it's got to be automatic. You got to make those big plays, and especially in the postseason when things matter the most, and especially for someone like Grant, who's been in and out of the rotation. So I just think that stuff. This is a big momentum building type of performance for Grant.
Yeah, this isn't a great game. I think there's a lot to not like out of this one, and you would have hated a collapse as they almost went all night there.
Oh yeah,
you almost got it.
But Grant steps in there, grabs that offensive rebound. I thought they handled the boards better down the stretch. Timely stops throughout this one, too, to cut runs off. Minnesota ended up going down by double digits, rallied a few times, but could really only get a few possessions away throughout much of this game. So Celtics dug into a defensive mindset early. I like the way they guarded up until late. Edwards got going quite a bit in that second half. So you escape with a win here. You're happy with that. I thought Brown was excellent again, like you, Josue. There were stretches where they tried to emphasize him later, where the playmaking kind of slipped with him, and the Timberwolves were able to survive a couple possessions there with Gobert on defense that led them right back into the game. But other than that, perfect night for him. Tatum struggles. Smart showed some life, which is encouraging. Same with Grant, though I don't think either of those guys came away with bounce back games in this one. And you skated by against, I think, a team that's better than people think. This is a solid Minnesota team. Like, they do some things that could bother a smaller Celtics team. I think they prevented the Celtics from playing small for a lot of this game. I know we'll complain about White's minutes, but I think that was probably necessary. But overall, you escape. You feel good about that. Where are you falling on, Jimmy?
Well, a few things stand out. Again, this was a Jaylen Brown-led game, and that seems to be becoming more of the norm recently. And really, you can't talk about the Celtics without talking about Tatum and Brown. So I know we joke that we don't talk about Brown enough on the show, but certainly he was the star of tonight's game, and vice versa. Another struggle from Jason Tatum, really from
I don't think Tatum ever got going. Yeah,
he didn't.
Yeah.
Finished 4 of 16. If he didn't go to the line, he would have ended up with 3 points tonight. The guy went to the line 16 times, 14 of 16. 14 of his 22 points tonight were from the line. 0 of 8 from 3. And, he's even said it. He's got to come out stronger with more energy, kind of set the tone early on. He's not doing that. Luckily they have another guy in Jaylen Brown, who has been playing that way right now. So right now, I'm slightly concerned about Tatum. I'm not to say that he's never going to find it again, but I'm a little bit struggling to figure out what's going on with him. On the bright side, it was good to see Marcus Smart make a couple of big plays in the fourth quarter for them. The N one, he had the rebound, a couple of nice plays from him, and then you guys touched on it too. Grant Williams getting a lot of playing time tonight, and I can't figure it out. I mean, I'm sure like you guys were scratching our head as to trying to figure out why he can go from essentially a DMP to playing 30 plus minutes, crunch time fourth quarter, playing in place of White and in place of Brogdon, and in the rebound. And yeah, Josue, you mentioned the tip there. I got to tell you what, I better not hear any fans complaining about the officiating tonight if you're a Celtics fan. If you're a Timberwolves fan,
yeah, not tonight.
You can complain all you want. But the
What
Celtics got the whistle all damn night.
Yeah,
and that jump ball
foul,
was, that's jump ball 101. You cannot do that. So,
the
they
flagrant,
there.
the tech.
Yeah.
Hey, the play before though, you got nailed with no timeout on that play. I mean, Joe must have been sprinting across the court.
But you know what though?
That one off. So
the broadcast said that he was, and then the replay, you could see Joe in the corner, and he wasn't. He wasn't calling a timeout until Grant maybe fell to the ground and dove for it. But at that
so you
point,
think he called it after it slipped out of his hands? That
once he saw that Grant didn't have possession completely, he ran onto the court and was yelling for timeout. Yeah,
right. But I don't think he was quick enough. I know, right off the rebound, I don't think he was quick enough. But players can call timeouts too.
Yeah.
So
none
of those players had the wherewithal to call a timeout, I guess. It worked out for them and they got the win. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of, pros and cons in this one. I think, for me, again, not to repeat myself, but Tatum obviously stands out as a guy who needs to be, whether or not he wins the MVP or not, he needs to be their MVP, along with Brown. It can't be one person show. This team, no team in the NBA is going to get by with just one guy showing up. Now the Celtics were able to do that tonight. Timberwolves, I love Anthony Edwards, but without Cat, they're obviously missing a huge piece of that team. And I know Bobby's not a huge Cat fan, but facts are, if you have Karl Anthony Towns in there alongside Gobert, that's a pretty dangerous front court, right? Throwing Anthony Edwards, and you've got a veteran. I know. Well, that's the issue they're going to have. And then Mike Conley obviously is an established veteran in this league. McDaniels, he was a guy tonight where I thought he kind of hurt them because he had a couple of wide open shots that he could have kind of put the Celtics in a tough position.
Let's go to that. I didn't think the attention to detail was great tonight. Minnesota crowded.
It wasn't. How many wide open shots?
Yeah, a ton of wide open shots for Minnesota. I thought you saw Tatum and Smart going back and forth a few times. Like, oh, you got this guy, you got that guy. So they didn't guard great on the perimeter. I thought they held down the paint well. Yeah, Anderson, McDaniels. But Minnesota didn't shoot well, so you got bailed out on that front. Offensively, another rough night, Brown aside. So if you take Brown out, you're probably shooting well below 40% from three. That's 22 of
just
60.
Ugly.
So that brings you to a little calculator here, 36% outside of Brown.
Yeah, Brown was 12 of 24. Horford was 4 of 8, and everybody after that was.
And it stinks because they got off to a good start, Jimmy. Remember that 8-pass play? Griffin's out there flinging the ball around. They get Brown that 3. Every time Brown was involved, I thought some good things happened in that first half, but it slipped. They went on like a drought to end the first. They had that 2-for-1 screw up with Brogdon, and it just went downhill from there. Tatum missed every 3, missed a couple of layups in the second half. And Brown even turned the ball over late and really let the Minnesota Timberwolves back into the game. So, again, you're like, all right, nice win. 2-1 on the trip now. It's a tough trip. But you didn't play great tonight at all, I don't think.
No, I don't even say nice win. I mean, you squeaked one out against a team that's barely above 500. I mean, these aren't teams that you should be struggling against. These aren't teams that should be going down to the wire that you need to, scream for a timeout for at the end. The Celtics, obviously the Timberwolves hit that desperation 3 at the end there that make the score a little bit closer, and by the way, shout out FanDuel, our main sponsor tonight. If you had bet the Celtics to cover tonight on
I
FanDuel,
told our guy.
you
I
are
told our
not
sales,
a happy camper.
I told our sales guy, no matter what you do, don't bet the Celtics line, and he went with the money line tonight. So good for him.
Well, there you go, Bob. You need to be giving out those tips to everybody, before, not just a guy. Yeah, that was a really tough beat. More on FanDuel in a bit, but we obviously love FanDuel, and certainly bad beats are a part of gambling. You get for every bad beat, there's a good beat, right? There's people who are celebrating tonight because of that cover from the T-Wolves. So there it is, FanDuel right there. So we'll get to them in a little bit. I don't want to talk too much about them at this point, but so I'm happy to have them aboard. But back to our original point, Bobby. It's a win. And this is one of those wins where, do you learn anything, right? If you lost, do you try to hopefully see a little bit more change or more players holding themselves accountable? We want the Celtics to win, don't get me wrong, but we want them to also learn from their mistakes. And if you're squeaking by wins against teams that, let's be honest, obviously they're not going to see this team in the playoffs because, one, they're in the Western Conference, and two, it would be a stunner if they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Yeah. Right. But this isn't the level of a team that you're going to see in the second round of the playoffs or the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, but they might resemble a team you see in the first round, Jimmy. They're feisty. They defend well. Right. They got the big man inside.
Yeah.
But if you're the Celtics, this is a team you take.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year.
Yeah, but those are the ones that have been giving them. Those are the ones that have been an issue for the Celtics, right?
The young guns.
These type of teams. Yeah, I mean, young guys, athletic. Size 1 through 5. So it's
size.
I mean, I just feel like the Celtics have to carry on how they finish this game, right? Because it's always been, especially throughout the games where they lose, the end of quarters, especially in the fourth, right? I mean, obviously, in losing effort. So I think that's where Joe Mazzulla has to emphasize, where this team's going, in the sense of everyone having that same mindset that to clean up those mistakes. Yeah, this was an ugly game, but they did what they had to do at the end to win it, and I think we have to credit them for that, because I just think they starting this road trip, this would have been a terrible loss, if you couple the last two outings and for them to start off the road trip this way, I just think this was important for them to finish out the game the way they did, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen in the playoffs when offense isn't there, shots not falling, and let's face it, this team defensively, we're not quite sure who they are right now because it's tough. They give up a lot of points, especially in the second half lately.
Well, rotations too, again tonight, all over the place. Hauser goes down to 2. Griffin's that main guy into the second unit again early, but not
Joe
late.
is just guessing at this point because he's trying to see what sticks.
They were all over the place in the first half. I mean, 6 minutes in, you go to Brogdon and Grant. Grant hasn't played in many first quarters recently, and he didn't play great in this one. You go to Hauser with Griffin and Grant. You go in a deep bench lineup there at one point that had Brown and Tatum off the floor, and then you go right back to Smart, right back to Tatum just a couple minutes later. So he tossed out 3 different lineups in that first quarter, and then he settled down into some more stable rotations for the rest of the game. But he's trying to get some looks and win these games, and you see how tough of a balance that is for him right now. Josue, you've liked Blake. I thought he was awesome early. But I just don't know if he's going to be defensively reliable enough to play in the playoffs when things really get decisive offensively and you're looking to target guys like him. It stinks because offensively he helps him so much with his passing. But I don't know how much he's going to be able to play. And then Grant, it's the opposite. Like, I thought they really benefited from having Grant out there defensively tonight, but offensively he's still missing every shot and flying into guys in between, committing offensive fouls.
Yeah, Missoula's trying to find that balance right now, and I just feel like down low, especially in this game, in this matchup, it was tough for Blake. He got beat up a bit, especially with guys getting in the paint and just sort of shooting over him or getting to the free throw line. So I mean he's
not a rim protector. That's the problem.
Right, and I feel like when he's clicking offensively that can get him going on the defensive end, especially when he's on switches, guarding the perimeter and those type of situations where sometimes Grant struggles in that, So I feel like Missoula right now without Rob, man, he's just doing the best he can in terms of trying to figure things out, how to strengthen this team defensively, because it's a turnstile down low right now. Let's face it. And Celtics have to counter that with playing better, in terms of the pick and roll defense, and of course in transition, which has always been tough for them.
And Minnesota bailed them out. We talked about the misses, but Jimmy, that taking Reed out in the fourth quarter, and he was pissed. Sigh of relief for the Celtics because they had no answer for him in the front court, and Gobert's out there doing nothing.
Yeah,
that was a classic case of you spent all this, all these assets on your superstar and Gobert. You have to play him right in the fourth quarter. But yeah, Naz Reid, he was everywhere for Minnesota. Finished with 15 and 6, but he made his effect on that game. And you're right, Bobby. When they took him out, he was shaking his head in disgust as he walked to the
Towns
Minnesota
had
bench.
to talk to him. It was
him.
weird.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's probably pissed because he probably doesn't like Gobert either. Let's be real, right? I mean, you're playing your heart out.
This Rudy thing is crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't play him a lot of nights. It is crazy. You give up all that, and he's a matchup guy, as he's going to probably be in the playoffs. Oh, man, that is just – I think Bill Simmons said it's going to go down as one of the worst trades of all time, and it really could.
Yeah,
it could.
I mean, I could see that.
It could. It just sucks that they
did hit those.
They lost Cat so early in the season, man. He's been out since Thanksgiving. So.
November, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd they say today? He's a couple weeks away.
He might come back next week.
Next week, yeah.
Same as Rob.
Rob's
looking for a return next week. We heard today, so
yeah.
They could have used Rob tonight.
What was that, Bobby?
I think he said it.
What was the Rob report?
I think Joe said pregame that he's about a week away. So they hit the 10-day mark, and now I think he's just going to ramp up. And as he said the other day to Himmelsbach, get moving. So we'll see how he moves. No, he's going to get moving now and hopefully be back in a week. So what are we talking about there? No weekend games against Portland.
Indy's next Friday.
Yeah, so I think start of that homestand makes some sense. Get a couple practices in next week. Again, remember earlier in the year he went on that West Coast road trip and we all thought he was coming back and he didn't play on it. It feels like the same thing's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm. You can see that.
Unless he sneaks into that Kings game.
He's got to get in there soon, though, because he's got to ramp up for the playoffs. And obviously you don't want to have him fresh off ice going straight into the first round. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that would give him 9 games if he comes back for Indiana.
So there's been, on our show and just I think around town, there's been a lot of talk about the fourth quarter playing time at the guard spot, right? And tonight it was Marcus Smart. It has been. And I think the difference tonight was we just saw no Derek White whatsoever. At any point in a meaningful fourth. You look at the plus minus tonight on the Celtics. I think led the team in plus minus, Josue. Or Bob.
Tonight?
I was keeping an eye on it.
I'm going to say...
Take a wild guess.
Jalen?
No. Derek White. It was Derek White himself. Derek White.
The way you set that up, I should have guessed Derek.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm trying to make my.
Come on, Josue, right? The coffee's in you.
Plus minus isn't everything, but I think especially when you come off the bench, it's an important stat. And Derek White was a plus 11 tonight in 24 minutes, which is 10 less minutes than Marcus Smart, obviously. The fourth. Again, Marcus Smart did have a couple of, important plays, I would say, in the fourth quarter that stood out to me, and I already mentioned them. He had the nice and one shot there, though I think he missed the free throw.
I don't know. Then, he missed the free throw, and then he sneaks underneath. He was running like a screenplay with Tatum, and they were
that was a nice play.
And he snuck right in the backside. I don't know if they win without that play. So credit to him. 2 huge baskets.
That was a nice play.
Time.
Right, and so I guess that's enough to save his fourth quarter playing time. I think that playing time was a hot button topic over the last few days here. But it seems like Joe, and there are obviously obvious reasons to it. I mean, what he gives you on both sides of the court. But I just think Derek White, once again, being the odd man out, um, in a year where he's unbelievable, and I think he has been their best guard overall. I think Joe needs to find a way to get him involved a little bit more. And I know Bobby, you mentioned that the Wolves being a little bit bigger could have played into the fact that Grant got the playing time tonight over Derek White. Is that more of what you guys are seeing the reason, or is there something else to this Derek White not getting enough burn here?
Yeah, I think that could be it. I just think he picks his spots, especially in the middle quarters, but it seems like in the fourth though, especially when it hits like the halfway mark, it's tough. When it comes to Derek White. I mean, sense of how the game is going. Sometimes we'll keep him in there, sometimes he doesn't. But I just feel like, yeah, you're right, Kyle. It's true. I just feel like it was like a trick question or something. I was like, Jalen? But no, I should have said White. Because he's been that guy, right? That's the main reason, right? I should have said that. But also, I just feel like he wants to get Smart out of this funk really bad. And look, those two shots, at the end of the fourth quarter, they were big, but there were a couple of questionable plays from Marcus, especially when the ball was swinging and he made some questionable decisions, which didn't lead to him being benched. But I mean, look, the end result, I just feel like Joe Mazzulla, that's sort of like he expects that from Marcus no matter what. He could be having the worst game in the world, but he's not going to be shocked when Marcus makes that big play at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple fouls, you mentioned the missed free throw, Jimmy. A couple of misses down the stretch, too. You got, I'd say, like 50-50 production from him here. And I do see why you'd want him out there, because he always seems to do something late in a game that's going to help you. And even tonight, early in that fourth quarter, that nice grab steal on, I think it might have been Reed or Anderson was right in that area, goes to the floor. I think he got fouled by Reed, and he pops right up. He's like, tee him up. And they did tee him up.
Yeah.
So you had little things like that I think impacted Minnesota. A couple of guys ended up getting ejected by the end of the game. You want to, and I'm going to be consistent because I've said this about Grant. You want this guy involved and engaged come playoff time. So help him work through whatever he's working through right now. The problem is it seems to be physical. A couple moments tonight, he tweaked that ankle. The second time, I think, really seemed to bother him, but he didn't come out of the game after either of those. At one point, he went to the bench grimacing a little bit. I can't even count how many times we've seen him tweak that at this point. So it's tough because we talked about this the other day. Pritchard's out probably for the entirety of this road trip, maybe longer. He seems like he's really hurt. So you can't just sit down Smart and say, White, Brogdon, and JD, you handle this tonight, because they've gotten into some foul trouble in some of these games too, and JD just isn't ready. So they're actually in a tricky spot at guard, as much as it seems like they have too much there because White's getting left out of it. They actually don't have enough to actually sit Smart down, I don't think, right now. So it's tough because White's been their best guard all year. Brogdon's your best shot maker, and Smart might be the most important for you come playoff time to be playing well. So that one's trickier to me than Grant, because Grant's competing with Hauser and Muscala and Blake and these guys that just aren't giving you a ton. Like, I think Grant should be out there every single night. Smart, White, Brogdon, I don't get it, Josue. If someone's playing better than Smart, or two of the other guys are playing better than Smart, rather, Smart should be able to say, all right, just for tonight, it's not my night, and we're going to go in this other direction, because you could just bounce right back the next night. No one's saying bench Smart. No one's saying cut Smart's minutes off the chart completely. Like, I think you need all three of these guys, but this unwillingness to shift away from the Smart closing minutes at guard, I think, is going to hurt this team in a spot if Mazzulla doesn't get a little bit more flexible there. And it's also on Smart, I think, to accept that.
I mean, it's going to be a moment where he has to make that decision. I don't think it has to be, 100% every single night. No. I mean, maybe we're just waiting for that to blow up in his face, or maybe we're waiting for the opposite, for him to make that call when the night is right. When he feels like it's that time to bench him and keep him, keep him out of it. But I just always think with Joe Mazzulla, it's a trust thing. He just likes Marcus out there. It's just something about it that he's waiting for that big play for Marcus to make, and for him to say, that's why I kept you in the lineup.
And I understand that, but you're cutting off White almost every night, because you're going to want Brogdon out there for shot-making purposes.
Yeah.
And White, you stack it up, Jimmy. White's been their best point guard. There's no doubt about it.
Right. And what I'm saying is, Josue, I mean, like, he might trust Smart, but I mean, for everything that Smart does well for this team, I
Don't
think
say it.
Smart's probably I think we would all agree is the most. I mean, so he gives you, he gives and he takes, right? I mean, everyone, that's the experience. I mean, when you line up Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Derek
It's a
White,
brutal
and
number.
you say, okay, who's the? I think it's pretty obvious that what that answer is. So yes, I'm sure he trusts him, but also Marcus Smart could be the guy that tries to do too much out there, or makes a boneheaded play for whatever that might be,
Right.
a silly pass,
Which is why that could blow up
or
in
a
his
little bit
face.
too
It
aggressive.
could happen too. It could happen
Right.
on the trip. I just think that's. I mean,
Right.
to answer your question, I just think that's what it is, really. And we've seen Joe pretty much all season. Well, maybe not all season, but we've seen him often just kind of hold back on Derek White a bit, and then put him in the lineup.
Because White's the most
moments.
willing to accept it, right?
Right. He's not gonna contest it, especially when he's putting together his best season.
But don't test him. Don't just because he's
nice.
I
mean, look,
don't take
the kind of year he's having,
that.
he's not going to question that, and that's just not who he is. But also with the kind of season he's having and the way he's been playing since a week before the All-Star break, going into after the break, he's been huge. His numbers have been, he's been arguably the most valuable player, one of the most valuable players.
And tonight might not have been the night, but you do need to start to test out that 3-guard lineup a little bit more to get them all the appropriate minutes. Because I don't think anyone's saying cut Smart off completely, but you should probably balance these out a little bit more. And tonight you're looking at Smart with 35, Brogdon with 31, and White way down there at 24. And as you said earlier, Jimmy, you lost those in the fourth quarter for the most part. Like he snuck in for a second, I think, and then he was right back out of there in favor of Smart. So they need balance between those three, and tonight probably wasn't that night because Minnesota's bigger. You needed reinforcements on the boards. You needed size to defend them, and I felt like they defended pretty well for much of this game, especially inside. Another good Horford game in there, piled up the stops. But you're going to want against certain teams, and I think Portland's probably a good opportunity for this coming up. Utah rather too. 3 guards, space that floor out, have playmakers all over the floor, and that can probably cut down on Tatum's minutes a little bit too, because I feel like you could actually survive out there with Brown, Brogdon, White, and Smart.
Sure, I mean it is matchup based, and now you start to look at postseason matchups and say, okay, well, who are the teams that they could be playing in the first or second round, and would that allow for more White minutes in the fourth quarter, or is it going to be a bigger team like the Bucks, for example? I mean, that's a bigger team. So how does that shake out? Philly's a big team. So what does that do to a guy like White in that situation, right? Does he end up being the odd man out again because they want to go with a little bit more Grant? The Grant is the Giannis stopper.
And you're going to throw Rob back in this equation too soon.
Well, we'll see. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself with the Rob stuff until I actually see him on the court giving you meaningful minutes at a percentage of his health that actually helps the team. I'm not even going to really assume that he's going to be a big factor. So here's a couple. Maybe this person missed the beginning of the show because we kind of talked about Tatum off the top. I do want to transition back to Tatum.
The Tatum thing's just so confusing.
We do, Bobby. Don't.
We were questioning Tatum from the beginning, right?
We were. And we're going to do that right after this. I want to remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by our main sponsor, FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. You guys are probably all aware by now that
how credit you been? We've been letting you know.
Yeah, online sports gambling is now legal in Massachusetts, where we all reside, and we're all signed up. We're tossing our bets left and right. We've got it going in the group chat. We mentioned already off the top that if you bet Celtics, if you bet the spread tonight on the Celtics, you're licking your wounds. But basically, guys, it's FanDuel.com/Boston is going to get you $200 in bonus bets once you place your first $5 bet. You just want to sign up, put in a minimum of $10, and make a $5 bet, and you'll get that $200 bonus bet. However, and this is a big however, if you were thinking about signing up for FanDuel, I would say to do that tonight because you've got March Madness starting up tomorrow, guys, and everyone knows that's the best couple of days of gambling in the year. A lot of people take work off for it. That's how crazy it is. But we have, courtesy of FanDuel, a very special bet that I want to tell you guys about. So West Virginia against Maryland tomorrow. Okay, guys? The bet is this. If 1 point is scored, you get, if you bet the $50, I'm butchering this, but basically it's West Virginia and Maryland to score just 1 point at plus 100 odds with a maximum of a $50 bet. So what that means at plus 100 odds is you make what you bet. So it's a promotional bet that FanDuel's doing tomorrow. You can bet $50 on West Virginia and Maryland to score just 1 point, and you will win that bet up to $50. So obviously, as soon as the show ends, I'm going to place a $50 bet on that because that's the promo bet, and that's just literally an automatic $50. So if anyone's thinking about joining FanDuel, that's a quick way to make $50 on your first bet. So listen, March Madness is crazy, but it's not crazy enough where a single point isn't going to be scored in this game. So again, guys, that's fanduel.com/Boston for $200 and first $5 bet. You already know what bet to make. And I also need to, and you have to be present in Massachusetts for that $200 in bonus bets. First online real money wager only, $10 first deposit required. Bonus is issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. And if you have a gambling problem, Hope is here. Gamblinghelpinma.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Again, a few of you who lost tonight's bet, maybe you can give that number a call. But otherwise, keep the bets flowing for tomorrow. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot more crazy bets to come over the next
Jimmy, this is
NBA season.
This is interesting. So I'm looking at the scores around the league, and we'll get right to Tatum. But this is something I talked about at the deadline. The Celtics get the Rockets pick if they can sneak below the Spurs in that lottery race down to 3. Right now they're at 2. They beat the Lakers tonight. So the Celtics own the Rockets pick, second round pick, if it falls below 32. So down the third worst record. Right now they're at second. They're a game and a half ahead of the Spurs, ahead in the lottery race. And they won tonight again after beating the Celtics the other night. So if the Spurs finish with the worst,
huh?
Well, they're giving up the pick either way. It goes to Indiana if it's 31 or 32. I forget what trade that was. But the Celtics got this pick.
Round, for the lottery
for the lottery. Well, actually, no. All the odds are the same, 1 through 3. So as long as they're bottom 3, they're okay there. But Celtics could add a sneaky. I know it's a second round pick, but that's like what their first round pick would be, 30, right? Or 29 probably at this point. So they could add a sneaky pick there if the Rockets keep winning, which I like. That's from the Desmond Bane trade, which is infamous at this point.
Another guy that they can draft and stash and never play, and then trade at 25 cents on the dollar.
Hey, 33 is not a bad pick, especially when you don't have your first rounder.
It's not. Get into it then before we get more criticism. And actually, we did get. I want to make sure. I hope I didn't miss it. Anyways, Bobby, you start on Tatum's. No, here it is. I wanted to.
I want to go Josue because I don't have a clue. What's going on?
Super chat tonight. Can we talk about Tatum and this 3-point chucking? Thank you, S. Austin.
He's hurt. He's tired, a little bit of both. Like that's usually the case when it comes to Tatum doing this, right? I mean, the rest thing, which I don't think is the case in this one, right? I think it's more of a, I don't know. He's trying to go through. He's trying to fight through the kind of injuries that have been nagging him this season. I feel like he's gonna need a day off one of these nights soon. And look, I know people are gonna say, oh, he's so young and this, that, and the other. Well, he's just going through it right now, and I feel like that's the sign of Tatum going through it when he's chucking threes and he's not trying to attack and he's just he's resorting to those type of attempts because he just knows there's a wall waiting for him, when he tries to go into the paint. I mean, look, in transition he does he's done a good job getting other people involved and swinging the ball around, but yeah, man, he's just been really out of it in terms of trying to find his offense and just trying to find his rhythm.
He didn't hit a single jump shot tonight. All 4 of his makes at the rim. That probably hasn't happened this year. So that could certainly be part of it, Josue. He missed everything. And some of them were off balance. Some of them were leaners, especially on the left baseline there. But they want him to launch. We've been talking about this week, Josue. They want him firing up those tough
Right.
contested shots to change the way defenses look. So in some way, they're sacrificing his ability to score and his ability to get easier looks to help free everybody else up. And I'm sure that's benefiting Brown. That's certainly benefited Brogdon and some of these other guys. But he's just not hitting them. And you're going to need him to hit tough contested shots in the playoffs, I think, to be successful. And as much as we talk about everything else, Jimmy, and I think Berendoni's been big on this on Twitter, the way the Celtics are going right now. They just need Tatum to get back to what he was doing earlier in the year, and that'll solve half their issues.
Which
I mean,
is
scoring efficiently, getting easy looks, I
there
think
you
is a
go.
big part of
Scoring.
that. But
Yeah.
that's going to free up his playmaking.
Well
That's going to
balanced
free up
attack.
his defense. They really need his defense right now, too, I think. Like all these different areas where he impacts the game. I think all these missed shots are probably getting to him. Like, I don't think you're
Yeah.
getting the same level of defense when he's shooting 0 for 8. I don't think you're getting the same level of ball movement and player movement from him, frankly. Like, he moved well early in this game. Did you see much movement from him in that second half, Jimmy?
No. Lethargic. He
Yeah.
took a horrific 3-pointer with what was that 3-pointer he took?
The one against
where
Gobert?
He would it was like right in this like the elbow area type 3 and
Yep.
Yeah.
it
On
was
the right wing.
right and he kind of faked it. Gobert didn't really bite enough and he was right in his face. I mean, you're talking about I know that we like to crap on Gobert, but let's be real here. That's not a smart shot to take with a guy like him right in your face like that. I think you pass it up in that situation. You try to get the ball back. You drive to the hoop. When Tatum drives, he's pretty damn good. He's creative.
And if you have
Right.
Rudy on the
And he gets to the
perimeter,
free throw
he
line.
throws it
right?
down.
He did that a lot tonight.
Yeah, he gets to the free throw line, and he did tonight. But
Right.
I think to what you guys are saying, when that shot doesn't start to fall, he gets a little pouty.
Yeah.
Right? He starts to sulk a little bit. He's not going at 100%. And I haven't seen him really going at 100% in quite some time now, where you look around and I do see a guy like Jaylen Brown going at 100%, running up and down the court, playing hard on both ends. I think his aggressive better than what Jason Tatum's is right now. I don't know if Tatum just feels like play a little bit slower of a style or more of a lethargic way. I don't know what it is, but I'm calling out his energy. The shot making has been a problem all season. He's just not shooting good this year. I think compared to the scoring is fine. He's finding ways to score, but that outside shot, and Bobby, you can back me up on this. I'm sure falling at a clip that you'd like to see from him.
Yeah, when you look up at the pull-up shooters in the league, he is down there among the three-point shooters, and I'd have to stack up the qualifiers here, but I think he's below 30% on those threes. Tonight probably took an even bigger hit at that. And Brown hasn't been great either, but Brown got off some quality looks tonight, moving. It's almost like Brown's playing a different style than the rest of the team right now in terms of how he's getting off shots and what he's doing offensively. He's just been so good. Everybody else is just kind of launching for the most part, and he's digging deep into the post. Yeah. He's pulling up from mid-range at a high rate. Tatum at 29.7% from 3 on pull-ups, and it's at 5 a game, which is a decent percentage of his looks. Smart not great either at 28% below him, but the team has.
But we expect that from Smart. I think with Tatum, you're expecting more than that, right? I mean, this is the guy. This is the guy that's supposed to take you to the promised land, and it's shoot poorly. But it's another thing to let that affect the course of the game on the other end of the court, or not playing they're capable of playing. You're supposed to be setting an example, and he goes up there and sits at the podium and says, "It's on me. I need to come up with more energy. I need to be this. I need to be that." And then plays the same style the next game.
That's fair. Yeah.
we're not blind. We're not stupid. Like we're not just gonna take what you say and say, "Oh yeah, he's saying all the right things. He's fine, blah blah," and then pretend like You didn't just do the
Well,
exact
let's
same
take
thing
this
that you
back
said
to
you
the
can't do.
let's take this back to the White conversation, because I think Brogdon looks at his role right now and he sees himself as a shot maker, the way he's playing stylistically right now. We know what Tatum wants to do, which is pull up from three. We know what Brown wants to do, which is catch the ball in the lane and finish. So who's setting these guys up? You normally be looking at Smart and say, "Oh, he does a great job getting these guys the ball in their spots," but he hasn't done that lately. So going down the line, your next best playmaker is White, and White, I think, when he catches the ball, almost always makes a good decision. And I think this is what's probably frustrating Missoula most right now is that they're not making the right reads. Time and time again, they drove in this game. Minnesota brought a second defender over, and they weren't passing out of those spots. And if they did, they weren't great passes. So right now they're lacking playmaking, which is why I think the offense looks so off balance. You have guys needing to create their own shots, which can run them into some danger offensively, and you're not well organized. And Smart, I think, did a little bit of a better job tonight. Had that nice pass to Tatum, I think, on the play where he got shaken up. He had a few nice passes in this one. Played some nice two-man game late with Tatum, which I think always works well. But he's still kind of getting back into the rhythm of the game, I think, after returning from injury to where he can make all these plays and find these guys in the right spot. So that's why, on top of everything we talked about earlier, they need a little bit more White to me. He can just settle them down a little bit.
Yeah, he's sort of the glue guy. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, look, they barely got 20 assists in this game, which is kind of similar to what we saw the other night. And obviously, this thing could have went either way if Anthony Edwards connects on a big three, or at least it goes into overtime. So, not Justin, he just got the night off. But I just think with White though, like, I just feel like it's one of those things where he's the glue guy. He can be that guy offensively and everything, but there's got to be other guys as well. Like, guys got to get more comfortable and have to get out of their funks, whether it's Marcus or whether it's even like the fact that we didn't get a whole lot of Sam Hauser in this one. Like this whole minutes thing that Joe Mazzulla's trying to figure out. I mean, it's tough without Rob, but I think that's also playing a part into seeing that deficiency, right? Or seeing those when the Celtics come up short on offense, and then what they're doing on defense too. Like, I feel like it's the two go hand in hand, right? When the offense isn't clicking, or guys seem to want to do things on their own and not swing the ball the way they used to, the way that the offense was, especially when the three ball's not falling, they really mess up on defense. And then all of a sudden, there's layups, there's miss coverages, and guys down low getting layups. I mean, we saw that a lot, especially in this one. Guys like Anderson getting those easy layups down low. So I just think it boils down to the defense. I mean, if the team can get back to playing defense and without Rob, it's tough. They're trying to figure that out, but they're doing they have to step it up a bit on this road trip. They have to, because otherwise it does affect their offense. We've seen that, night in, night in, night out.
Yeah, tonight proves that, because they didn't do much great offensively and still came away with a win. So they obviously defended at some amount of a level that held Minnesota to, I think, what was their final score overall? 102. So they basically had them at 99 before that last heave, which is really good in the league now. You're seeing teams score 110 pretty much every game as a bare minimum. So I like the defense tonight. I think they did some good things schematically that slowed the Wolves down until the second half. And they need to do that. But the big thing you're looking at, Josue, with them is that they're not as switchy and disruptive as last year. In this game, you have Horford back at the net a lot again.
Yeah.
You're not forcing many turnovers. What was Minnesota's final number there? I think they had 13.
Minnesota.
So that's a decent number. But it didn't lead to much on the other end. So you got to get out and run. You got to play with some level of pace. You got to get on the boards too, which became an issue in the second half. And this is what Joe keeps talking about, these little things. Free throws, I think they did a good job with that tonight. That helped Tatum out especially, and they end up winning that battle 30-22. Rebounding, they lose, but they kept it tight, especially on the offensive glass. And what's the other one he likes to mention? Turnovers, and you win that battle as well. So that's what I know Missoula is going to say tonight, is that we won all three of those battles. That's why we won this game, even though we didn't shoot well.
Right. He'll definitely mention ball movement for sure. He always brings it up.
And that's big. Yeah. I mean, they shot 30% from three, Josue, tonight, and win. They have pretty much won and lost games at the three-point line recently.
Well, Minnesota missed a lot of shots as well, but I mean that's obviously a testament to who they are. But yeah, when the Celtics needed to make the big plays in that fourth quarter, they did. I just think it's when you look at the identity of this offense, yeah, this isn't the type of, you look at the box score, this isn't a win, from what we've seen throughout the season. However, they found a way to pull it off, and I think that's obviously what's most important. But you're wondering, how is this offense going to look for the rest of this road trip? How are they going to find that balance? And sure, yeah, Tatum has a lot to do with that. I mean, I still commend him for getting to the free throw line that many times. I mean, like 14 to 16, like that was so rare before this season. And obviously he's getting more calls this year compared to last year. And when he's not shooting, he's starting to go into that mindset of being sort of a playmaker slash, get to the free throw line, trying to find that offensive rhythm. It didn't necessarily click in the fourth. You didn't get that big offensive production, but Jalen stepped up in a big way. And like all this stuff matters, I think, because the Celtics, again, like you want them to have the right momentum to finish the season strong. But I mean, they're going through it right now, but you're seeing them figure things out without trying to win by, making a lot of 3-pointers, without making frustration type plays. I mean, they're playing smarter at the end of the fourth quarter. So that's a step in the right direction.
It is. They didn't hold on to that lead great down the stretch.
No, they don't. No lead is safe for the Celtics. I mean, that's a big part of who they are, and it's not a good thing. But yeah, you want to see them, try to get away from those habits. But giving up, offensive rebounds and letting teams go on those little runs in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's what's going to happen. That leads to a one-possession game at the end of this. I mean, it was technically a 2-possession game, even though that 3-pointer went down at the end. Mike Conley makes it, but I mean, look, if Tatum doesn't make those free throws, Minnesota has another shot to tie or win it at the end.
Yeah, so they take out Reed, which we mentioned earlier was a big deal. Brown gets a nice turnaround to go that pushes them up 6. You get a couple Minnesota misses. Rudy missed some free throws, couple stops. Horford hits a 3, so that put them up 9 with 6 to go. Tatum misses a shot. Brown turns it over. I think Smart missed a shot in the lane as well, so they missed 3 shots in a row. Minnesota scores the other way each time. I think Edwards scored all of them. So that cut it down to 2 with 4 minutes to go. You got those couple good Smart finishes to kind of save the game. Rudy hits an alley-oop in between. Tatum hits a couple free throws, as you said, which was huge. McDaniels hits a couple the other way. Rudy hits those ones to cut it to 2 again. And then you get that Tatum 3 that Jimmy mentioned, the one against Gobert. You had a Tatum offensive foul. You had a Smart heave miss that Grant got the rebound on, and that was the game right there. So it's not like they exactly slammed the door with great offense down the stretch. They slowed down. They got a couple key offensive rebounds that saved them, and Minnesota just couldn't score on enough possessions to completely overcome a lead there. It wasn't the kind of execution in crunch time that's going to boost their numbers in that spot.
Right. No, it's not. It's ugly. It really is. But this is one of those games where if you're the Celtics, you're obviously happy you won, but you also know that it's going to be a long film session tomorrow, and that's good. I hope. But look, he doesn't have to tell us. He doesn't have to be open about what he does. But I hope Missoula really, gives them a hard time, because yeah, they won the game, but there's a lot to learn from this game, and I'm expecting a huge, a significantly better performance from this team offensively, and especially with Tatum. I mean, at least a step in the right direction. Not what we saw today. It's just something that's more efficient. Maybe it's not going to be a 40-piece, that type of performance, but just something that's efficient, where he's stuffing the stat sheet and just trying to get everyone involved.
What could help this team out in crunch time, Jimmy? Is it lineups? Is it plays from the sideline? Because they just slow down consistently and they blow the lead every time. No, we don't have Jimmy. No audio.
You're muted. He's there, but he's muted. Yep. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. I'm having like a weird freaking delay. Sorry for the internet issues, boys. I'm in Brockton tonight apparently. But we're just gonna have to deal with it.
I didn't know you were in town.
What I think what I was trying to say was the talent is there, right? Whether it's White in the game, whether it's Smart in the game, we're talking about guys who are capable of contributing to a team that can win a championship. What happens to me is that sometimes it feels like there's no leader at the end of these games. They tend to lose their composure. They don't they don't play connected, right? And I think a lot of the things that maybe got them to a lead into that fourth quarter, they get away from, especially in the second half. Even tonight, we saw like a little bit more stagnant with the ball. I think for me, a little bit more of a purpose with execution. So many of these games, it feels like they're either playing the clock or they're just not playing smart basketball. And
Yeah, they went down to the shot clock a
whether
lot
that means
tonight.
yeah. And whether
Yeah.
that's something that needs to come from the sidelines, Bobby, I'm not sure. I mean, Missoula had a couple of timeouts to use tonight. I mean, every game they seem to have a couple of timeouts that they, in more cases than not, choose to just leave. I don't know if you can cash them in at the end of the year for some kind of bonus, but other than that, I don't see the point of not using them when you have a chance to. Same page on the sidelines. That to me is what it is. The talent, it seems to me, it's been there. It's the style of play. It's almost feeling like they're playing not to lose instead of playing to win when you in these games. And that mentality isn't going to get you to where you need to go. You need to just play confident, strong basketball, smart shot, taking. And I feel like that's the other thing, Bobby and Josue, is that, and maybe it's coming from Joe, but they
That pun
rely
intended?
so.
Do you intend that?
No, I didn't, but sorry.
Because he's the one that's been questionable with his shot selection. But sorry, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, how many field goals they had in the final 2 minutes, Jimmy?
2.
No.
0.
They had 0? What do you mean?
They had
Celtics?
0 makes.
Zero
yeah,
attempts
you're
or zero
right.
makes.
It was free throws and yeah.
Free throws, a turnover, the
Yeah.
offensive rebound,
Yeah.
and then the free throws after that.
They're
They
all
missed
yeah.
3 shots.
all
They
free throws.
dropped 3 possessions.
So that's a perfect example of like just the ish hitting the fan, in the closing minutes of these games, which we've seen a number of times this season. And in the
And
playoffs,
isn't that perfect evidence that they need to shake up the group that's on the floor
yeah, I would
at
say
that
so.
point?
I would say
Yeah.
you need a more of a steady hand in there, right? And if that's Derek White, then toss him in there. We talk
Or maybe
about
tonight it wasn't Grant. And we should get to Grant too before we get out of here, because makes
Right.
the big play at the end, but it really wasn't his night overall.
no, I mean it hasn't been. But
Yeah, but
you asked me that question. Did you guys already
players-
answer that question before I came
as
on?
players
or-
say often, or at least they used to, it's something to build off of, right, Bobby?
A little bit. I mean, he needs it. He was so deep in the
Jimmy,
hole
you
that he
remember
needed-
that, right? That was
he
like the
needed
thing.
some-
Oh
That
yeah.
was like that's what you always heard in the scrum when a struggling player had that one big play down the stretch.
Yeah.
Something to build off. So, if you're
Sorry,
Grant, you
right,
drop
right.
that line if someone is asking you questions today.
Well,
It's
I mean,
something to build off.
it erases the offensive rebound tonight. Erases those free throws from that other game. I think, in that spot.
Does it? I'm not gonna say.
No, because they might have lost this game if they.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
scrub
If they lose, everyone's pointing at Grant. Everyone's pointing at where was Tatum, but specifically it would have been Grant because everyone would have said you play Grant and Derek White was on the bench and you lost this game because of that decision.
Yeah, I
That-
mean, you
that
can't
would
look
have
at
been
Joe.
you can't look at Smart tonight. He had the 2 big buckets. So you're looking at Grant in crunch time there, and he comes through with the offensive rebound. But man, shoot
Agreed.
the ball,
Yeah.
shoot it.
When he starts hesitating like that,
Oh
you
my
know what
God.
kind of night's gonna be. He hesitated earlier, and I was like, oh, that's what we're doing.
He fakes and runs into Naj Reid at one point.
Yeah,
I think he had another bad miss in the lane too because he faked and went into the lane. He needs to stop doing that move. I can't remember the last time he made a shot off that move because he's not going to pass.
right.
I mean, he's just not making plays out of that driving position. So at one point tonight, he's dribbling, lining a guy up, doing the same thing that he did against Giannis in that Milwaukee game before the break.
Right.
And so I've defended him in every turn. I think they need him. But if he's dribbling the ball, I don't know what Joe can do but sit him down. You just can't dribble like he does.
Yeah,
Dude, you're preaching in the choir. I'm
Yeah.
right there with you. I don't understand it either.
and it wasn't like this was one of those
And
games
you know what
where
you can do? If you don't think you can get the shot off, you can keep it moving. And that's their biggest problem right now, I think, is that they
Yeah.
don't keep the ball moving for long stretches of the time. And when you're down to the late shot clock and the possessions like they are, it should be because you work through so many different outlets and you're really just passing and driving and passing and driving and here comes the shot clock because you've been working so hard. It shouldn't be because you're dribbling around and trying to line a guy up and get past them and all this ISO stuff that they did tonight. I mean, it's frustrating to watch, especially when they get down to the fourth quarter, some of the things they're doing offensively right now, because they made so much progress, Jimmy. They really did. Like, we thought they solved so many of these issues, and like, this is stuff we talked about in 2021, 2020 in the bubble. Like, these are old issues that are popping up again.
Facts, my dog.
Yeah, they are.
Bobby, you said something about, it was you who tweeted today or retweeted a video clip from DeMarcus Cousins. Is this accurate so far?
Yeah.
Is DeMarcus Cousins, like, does he have his own podcast?
Bobby's like, I would never.
I think he was a guest
What are you
on
talking about?
Nicholas Shop.
Okay, so DeMarcus Cousins was on a podcast, and he said that.
Yeah, he's been doing stuff on. He's been doing stuff with Showtime lately.
Oh, has he been on there consistently? Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a frequent guest. Yeah.
And he basically said, Bobby, that he's not concerned about this Celtics team. This is just a case of being bored of a long season.
I'm like, what do you know about that, DeMarcus?
I was gonna say, first of all, like, you're about as qualified as I am to make that statement.
That's messed up. A little more qualified. Come on, Jimmy. A little more.
He said.
When it comes to winning seasons and like playoff basketball, I think.
Yeah,
we're
right.
there.
What do you know about that life?
He said Boston's recent 5-5 run is just typical post All-Star boredom.
Like, DeMarcus, what do you know about that life? What?
And that might be if that's typical to him, that might explain why he's talking about it and not playing in it.
Yeah. I feel like that's his way of being like, that's the way I'd be handling this season. If I was
you know what's funny? Because I don't think he realizes that they changed the schedule. So a couple of years ago, when you came out of the break, you'd have all of March and then almost all of April before you hit the playoffs. So that March would really be a slog for teams. Yeah. Now you're in that stretch run. I mean, there's probably like 2 or 3 games in April period before the playoffs. Right. So you're under 15 games to go right now. These aren't the dog days. This is the stretch run.
Yeah, it used to be like smack middle
of
April, or even like closer to like the 20th where the playoffs would start.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the play-in tournament,
maybe the Celtics don't realize that.
Right. That's true. Maybe we can remind them. But I mean, with that being said,
yeah, Bobby, you should remind us.
I got into a little Twitter debate, which I don't really tweet as much as I used to, but I just happened to be on today for a little bit. And
was it about the Patriots?
No, it wasn't actually. I don't I don't debate about the Patriots. Everything I say is just fact. But with the Celtics, and there seems to be this notion that you shouldn't be worried about the Celtics because,
was it below the Boogie tweet?
They know what they know what they're doing. They went to the NBA Finals last year. All this stuff, and this is just like I guess Boogie Cousins said, the dog days of the season. My bet, the Celtics haven't won a damn thing as far as I'm concerned. In fact, when the way I see it is they've lost opportunities to advance, whether it was in the bubble, whether it was last year in the NBA Finals. They've had talented teams, and in my opinion, they've come up short. I don't know what.
Hold on, here's Jimmy's exchange.
Oh, here you go.
People are acting like this team's ever won anything. It's the opposite. They've never won. Until they do, I don't understand the confidence. This guy came back with some win totals from the last couple of years. They've won games, yes, but they ultimately come up short in the playoffs every year, including 2 seasons, bubble and last year, where they had a real chance to win a title and blew it. Again, they haven't won anything if titles are what you care about.
This is what happens if you if you hop up and if you're in Jimmy's mentions, he wants all the smoke. So this is what happened.
Well, they were having their own combo, and I was like, "Yo, if you're gonna keep including me in the
got the seal of approval,
right? You got exactly. When you get a certain number of notifications, and if you're on the wrong side of the argument, Jimmy's gonna clap back at you.
Look at this. Look at this one. This kid's right. Exactly, Jimmy. JT talking low energy. JB talking about letting go of the rope. Maybe it's time to seize, get some popcorn, and go watch last year's finals. Maybe that will
Yeah, go to the
cause the
movie.
energy
They've
to
been doing
shift.
that.
But that's exactly where I'm at with this team. They don't have the authority. They don't have the. They aren't the Golden State
Yeah,
Warriors. They don't
yeah.
know what
This
it
is like
takes
returning
to win. They
champion
don't.
problems. Yeah.
They have. Yeah. They have no right to flip the switch off and on, or to be bored, or to play lethargic. They need to come out and play like they want to be champions. The champions that they've never been before. This team doesn't have a single one on this team. So don't tell me that they have it all under control and that there's nothing to be concerned about. When I
I think
see the
someone's
style
making
of play,
popcorn right now.
yeah, when I see this, you hear that? That's popcorn right there. When I see the style of play that I'm seeing, that doesn't tell me that that's a team that's prepared or ready to win a championship. And I don't want to hear the same excuses if they get eliminated from the playoffs again. That was my mic.
There you have it. We all got
Yeah.
upset. Josue, you got a rant before we close it out?
What's that?
You got a rant before we close this one out? Me and Jimmy had ours.
No, I feel like I went on my
Yeah.
little thing too. It's just about closing out games and trying to bring this momentum onto the rest of the trip. But yeah, I expect the offense to look much better. And if it doesn't, then they're going to be in this type of situation at the end of games where it's like a 50-50 thing if they're going to win it or not, you know. And it's not going to matter who they're playing against, because that's just what happens when you don't find your rhythm on offense and you're unable to stop the bleeding on the opposite end. I just feel like, especially in the second half, teams are just prone to go on these big runs, or especially in the fourth quarter, rather. And the
It's
Celtics are just
happening
like,
every game right now.
right, especially in the fourth. And the Celtics are just like, oh yeah, this is part of it. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be. You know, you can build a solid lead and then hold on to it and go into the last couple of minutes with a sense of security.
Well, the good thing is you're playing three of the worst defenses in the league coming up.
That's what I'm
Portland,
saying. So you better. I mean,
Portland, Utah, Kings. You should really lay into these teams. Now the Kings is going to be
you
a
lost to
battle.
Houston.
Good way to get your shot
I know.
back.
That Kings game is going to be something. I can't wait for that one next Tuesday. But first, it's Blazers on Friday. You took care of that team
Kings gonna
fairly
be
easily
tough.
last week.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the Jazz yet this year, which is crazy to think about at this point in the season. They're going to play them twice over the next couple of weeks here. So be that Danny reunion on Saturday. I know you guys aren't going to be there for those games.
Watch the Jazz steal one. Watch the Jazz
Easily.
steal one.
I mean, they play hard. They're tough. They got Markkanen. That'll be a tough one. I don't think Portland's going to do much on Friday, but they're at home. That can be a tough home court. We'll see. But yeah, you got to come out of this road trip with, I think, 4 wins for it to be a success. Maybe 5.
I agree with that. 4-2 wouldn't be bad, considering what this team looked like before the trip. I think 4-2 would be solid.
Yeah, you might drop that Kings one at the end.
That's the line, though. If you go 3-3, that's a failed trip.
Oh, for sure.
I agree.
And you're probably
they're
out of
playing
the one
teams that
seed.
they
Because
should be
exactly,
do that.
because of the teams you're playing against, right?
And check out the standings right now. Philly
So-
keeps winning. Another win for them tonight, and they are now, I think, just a half game behind you for that 1 whole game. But still,
That was a big comeback for them, too. I think they were down
they've
13.
won 6 straight, 7-10. You're not that far ahead of them, so you got to win every game to keep them off. It almost feels like that's what you're playing for at this point, is too, because the Bucks just never lose anymore. So I don't know how you're going to be able to surmount them, though you do play them at the end of the month. So
What is that now? 22 out of 24 or something like that? Jeez.
did they play tonight? Because they might have stacked another win on top
It's
of
mad
that.
W's. It's a lot
No, they
of
played
wins.
yesterday. So yeah, 22 of 24 with Giannis in the
22
lineup.
out of the last 24 games.
That's like a
big-
run the Celtics had last year around this time.
Yeah, but a
they
month
were-
ago, or not even a couple weeks ago, most of those fans were just like, Milwaukee
Yeah.
doesn't want they don't want these kind of problems. I'm like, I think they do. I think they've been ramping up and they've been adding players and they've been finding momentum at the right time. I mean, they kind of look like what the Celtics looked like last year, right? Around this
And
time.
think all their role guys who are just killing it. Portis, Holiday's been amazing all year. Lopez.
Lopez
I
has
can't
been
believe
huge.
the seasons he's
Yeah,
had.
he's a candidate for defensive player of the year.
And when you look at the Celtics, Smart's struggling. You got that question in the front court with Grant. Horford's been a rock. Like, they're so lucky he's played the way he has because they haven't had much else there. I don't know where Muscala is at this point. He didn't play again tonight.
That's an interesting take.
Hauser's 2 minutes, so he isn't really building on anything. And Griffin, again, give him credit for what he's doing. I don't know if you're finding anything there, unless you disagree, Josue.
You know how I feel about Blake. He is who he is.
Can he be a playoff rock for them?
When he's
definition of rock.
Yeah,
Like a guy
I
who's
think
gonna
so.
play every night and give you something every night.
No, I don't think he'll be that guy.
I don't
but
think Joe. I don't think Joe allows anyone to feel that way about anybody on the bench. Does anyone have that aside from
besides
Brogdon?
Brogdon,
Yeah.
You don't know who's gonna play what on any given night. You could get a
I
guy
mean,
who give you
Hauser
30 one
probably
night and 3 the
thinking
next.
that. Yeah, Hauser's probably thinking that a little bit after tonight. Yeah, that's a fair point, but I just don't think. I mean, for Blake, for someone for who he is and at this stage of his career, I just think he's one of those guys that can just really give you 1 or 2 games throughout a series where you're just like, man, like that was a big impact. I don't think he's the guy that's going to be, giving you that type of performance every single night.
Well, credit to him. He's given them a few good ones on this trip so far.
Oh yeah, no
between
question, and
Atlanta
especially
and
in those first
Minnesota.
2 rounds, the playoffs. I mean, yeah, you're gonna throw different bodies at Giannis or I should say, when that happens. Each conference finals, but Blake will be a part of that. But I don't know if
He knows
that's
how
going
to
to be.
guard Giannis. That might be the most important part of this edition when that time comes. But
I
gotta
mean,
get there.
that's the part that
And
when you signed him, you wanted that extra reinforcement for sure.
And you know that he's not taking plays off. When
No,
he's out there,
right?
he's earning every minute of his playing time. If something goes south, it's not due
You
to
know what
lack
I
of
love
effort. It's
about
just
him?
due to
Exactly,
him
which
being
is
a
why
little
he's
bit
getting
later
playing
in his
time.
career.
Absolutely.
What I love about him more than anything else is every time he does something, he's got to look over the bench and be like, "Did you see that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see what he did with the jump
yeah.
ball?
When he dunked it tonight.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
And the jump ball.
He looked over, just like, yeah, got that.
Yeah.
I still got it. I still got those ups.
Oh my God,
It's like, yeah, we saw it, Blake. We saw it. Yeah.
You
They
know
should
what,
just
though?
put him at the podium more often for the laughs.
Oh, totally. You know what?
Even in the locker room, Bobby, the stuff that he says, like off camera, is hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, he's just a.
He should have his own podcast. He should.
Oh, that's
definitely have his own
coming. That's
podcast
coming
for sure.
after his
Let's
playing game.
we
days,
should
for
we
sure.
should start talking to him. His
Yeah.
playing days are coming to an end. Let's see what we can set up.
Yeah, get him on the network.
Bobby
Yeah,
and
you guys
Bobby and
are
Blake.
there. You
How's
can-
that sound?
Sounds
I
all
like
right,
that.
but
That's like
it would be a good.
little Starsky and
It would be a
Hutch.
good combination. I just don't love the name of that one, but yeah, not crazy.
Yeah, we need. I don't know if you're gonna get the name of. It might be
Blake and Bobby.
to start.
Remember his
Blake and Bobby just sounds better though. Blake and Bobby, yeah.
Remember that skit he did with Drake? He was like, "Should we call it Drake or Blake, or Blake and Drake?"
Right. He's funny, man. He's a
Tim
really
makes
funny
a
guy.
good. Tim makes a good point. We can't talk about this with Cornette if Cornette's still on the team.
I'm just saying,
because he'll
Cornette
get a
has
little
many
jealous.
years ahead in his career. Griffin's at that finish line, so he might be.
In case he's
about
watching, okay, Bob, you're
might
good
be-
now.
Yeah. Real quick, just to put a bow on things, we were talking about playoff seeding. I mean, it's Bucks, Celtics right now. It's Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, Cavs, Knicks, Nets, and really from Cleveland, who's 7.5 back, to Miami in the 7 seed, who's 13. Of ways. I mean, it's certainly not settled. You get the Knicks who are 10 back and the Nets who are 11 back. So if you're the Celtics and you fall into that three spot,
You're gonna get a real series round one.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if
Knicks.
Brooklyn, Atlanta, Washington, and you know how I feel about Toronto, but they're struggling. Those 4 teams might be walkthroughs if you can get 2. Miami, even though I'm not the most confident guy in them in the world, you'd take those other teams over them right now. They're probably going to get up to 6.
Butler's a Celtics killer.
Yeah. That'd be a monster first-round series. Remember the Nets last year? That might even be harder than the Nets were last year, but we'll see.
Well, the Nets weren't hard, really.
Each game to game it was. I mean,
yeah,
you're
right.
As a series it wasn't. But
Kyrie had his game.
I think the margin of victory at the end of the series was like 7.
Yeah, you're right.
So they were close games.
But yeah, that's what you want to avoid is these battle. I mean, it's going to happen. Let's be real. The NBA, there's no cakewalk. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a cakewalk. If the Celtics are playing anywhere like they're playing now, it's not going to be a cakewalk whatsoever. Now, if they're playing like they were the first month of the year, then yeah, rounds of the playoffs, and then they'll meet the Bucks. That's why they need to get their SHIT.
They shouldn't fall to 3. I know they've fallen from 1.
They're right
Bucks
there.
Not rolling. But no,
I'm
just
there,
saying,
Bobby.
in terms of what we expect from them, they should not fall behind Philly.
You should
ramp it up, rack up
You
these
should July
wins, and
1st.
seal the deal. And you got another game against them too, which is going to help you too.
I was just going to ask that. Do you have Philly? You have another one against Philly?
April 4th, so a couple weeks from now in Philly.
Ooh, that's a big game.
Yep.
All right, that's it, fellas. We want to thank everybody for hanging out with us and watching tonight. We also want to thank our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure you guys go to FanDuel.com/Boston for $200 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. That's just with a $10 deposit. Don't
Great
forget,
deal.
there is an
Great
automatic promo bet going on tomorrow, guys. What did I say? West Virginia versus.
They're
Let
playing.
me get this one right. West Virginia versus
Maryland.
Maryland. All they have to do in that game is score a single point, and you get your bet. So if that's not a reason to sign up for, I don't know what it is. So we'll get once
Free
again.
money.
That's
Free money to bet.
FanDuel.com/Boston. Celtics take this one in Minnesota, 104-102. They will be in Portland on Friday
Yep.
to catch up with Damian Lillard, who had some really interesting comments. We're not going to get into them now, but maybe you guys will talk about them. Sorry, it's Saturday. It's not Friday. It's Saturday.
Is
Oh,
it?
about not wanting to tank or whatever. I mean, not tank.
About not wanting to chase
jumping
rings.
ship.
Yeah, jump ships, chase rings
Yeah,
with another
yeah.
team, and how the NBA has kind of changed.
No, it's Friday.
Oh, it is Friday?
That's
Why did I
Friday,
think
yeah.
it was Saturday?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. Okay, so
Utah
it's Friday.
Saturday.
It's back to back. Yeah.
Oh, it's back to back. There you go. So Friday in Portland against Lillard. He just talks about how the NBA has kind of changed since he entered the league and how, basically there's a lot more to playing in the NBA than just chasing titles. He wants to play for his teammates and play for his city, and he finds honor in those things other than just ring chasing, jumping ship. So check that out. You guys have anything you guys are working on or doing right now?
Nope.
Anything you want to plug?
Wish we were out there on the road, but we'll ramp it back up when they get back here to Boston.
Josue, you got a podcast out recently, no?
No, the Isaiah Thomas interview. Yeah, Cedric Maxwell podcast. Check it out. Part 2 is out this week. Man, incredible stuff. Just those two clicking and going down memory lane, but really insightful stuff from Isaiah and of course Max just lining them up with the best questions, man. Just a really great sit down, which of course is why we had to make it a 2-parter. So second one's out this week, so check it out if you haven't already.
Are you gonna make us like Isaiah?
I mean,
Are we gonna come out of there liking
a
him
little
more?
bit, yeah, a little bit, but you still, he still
little
talks.
bit.
There was a good thing on
Pistons,
Jalen in there.
his Pistons, ish. So
Yeah, good. Okay.
yeah, great Jalen story in there as well. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Great stories.
All right, everybody, check that out, and we will see you guys Friday. Peace.